This is perhaps one of the greatest or best known underdog stories in history. The giant calls out an entire nation, and they're paralyzed in fear, including their military. For 40 days, Goliath dared someone to step up and challenge him. Then, an unlikely hero emerges. David, the shepherd boy, the operative word there being boy, steps up and takes out a stone, and then drops one of the largest men in the history of the world. You've heard the story 100 times, but no one's asking the one question that the text is quietly answering. Where'd this giant come from? And this isn't the story that you've been told in Sunday school. It's the one underneath it. I've heard it 100 times myself, and I've glossed right over it. But it's right there in 1 Samuel 17:4. And there came out of the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. But there's more to this standoff than just your standard underdog tale. It's a man that was defiantly mocking a nation, a king, and more importantly, mocking the God of Israel. It's framed as God's honor versus the might of man. And Goliath was a mighty man, but God is mightier. To put this into perspective, during that time, the average height of an adult male was about 5 feet 5 inches, maybe a little bit less. David was a youth. We don't know exactly how old he was, so he was probably on the shorter side of things. I mean, we could be wrong about that, but he certainly wasn't a large man. He wasn't as tall as Saul. I mean, the Bible said Saul was tall when he was king. The traditional Hebrew text says that Goliath was 6 cubits and a span. So a cubit was about the length of the arm from the elbow to the end of the hand, about 18 inches, and a span was about the length of a hand. And that converts to about 9 feet, 9 inches. However, the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Septuagint say that he was 4 cubits and a span, or about 6 feet 9 inches. I think the 9 feet 9 inch estimate makes more sense though, just based on the size and weight of his kit and weapons. Here's why. I'm 6 feet and I'm a big 6 feet. And I've got a good friend that's 6'7", and to me, he feels big. I know my friend is really strong, but I don't think, even with his strength, he would be wielding the kind of weapons and armor that Goliath had. I don't know, to me it just makes more sense based on the size and weight of the stuff that he carried. 9 feet 9, that's a whole 3 feet taller than my buddy. And if you extrapolate the size and the height and the strength, it makes more sense that he could wield those heavy weapons and the armor that he had. Either way, he was really big. Even if he was the shorter estimate, he would still be a foot, maybe even a foot and a half taller than David. I mean, I don't know if you know anybody that's a foot taller than you. That feels big. So Goliath should have beaten any of the Israelite warriors in single combat. And on paper, he should have destroyed David. But David won because God carried him through. I'm getting off track here though. Where was Goliath from? And was it weird that he was that big? Well, the Bible tells us he was from Gath. And that's more significant than it seems. You see, Gath isn't a random town. This goes back to Joshua when he drove the Anakim, the giants, out of the area. None were left in Israel except in 3 cities, Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. He wasn't just a big man who showed up for combat. Goliath Goliath was a remnant. But who was he, really? He wasn't Philistine by blood. Of Gath tells us where he lived, but not his heritage. He just lived there, and he fought for them as a mercenary. His bloodline was Rephaim, an ancient giant people, and within the Rephaim race, his clan or group was Anakim. The Philistines were newcomers to that area. Goliath's people were much older and had been there first. So when the Philistines moved in, they absorbed the remnant Anakim and other groups like them. So naturally, the Anakim would work as contracted mercenaries or champions for the military whenever they would go out for war. But getting back to David and Goliath, just as David said he would, he slayed the giant because the Lord delivered him into his hand. We trace Goliath's bloodline back, but his is just one branch of many of the giants that are mentioned in the Bible. Giants are mentioned in several books of the Bible. I think I counted 6. And they're mentioned at different points in the biblical timeline throughout different regions. It's not always obvious that the Bible's talking about giants, but it does. And they're all connected. Genesis drops a mysterious clue about how long they've been around. Starting in Genesis 6:1, when man began to multiply on the face of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. When the sons of God came into the daughters of man, they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown." And that's where we're going next. We're going to unpack the different races and clans of the giants in the Bible and figure out how they all fit together. If you want to be here when that one drops, see what I did there? Subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay rooted in Scripture.